Good morning, students. Myself, Dr. Vijayendra Singh Tamar, Associate Professor in English. Presently, I have been posted at Government College Guda in the Jharsuguda district. In the series of video lecture which I am preparing, this video is meant for the students of English Literature, Class BA Part 2nd, Paper 1st, and the topic for this video lecture is There is a Pleasure in the Wood, in the Pathless Woods, a poem by Lord Byron. Its explanation. Particularly in the previous video, we have done explanation of stanza 1 to 3rd. In this, we will take up stanza 4th to 6th. As you know, Lord Byron is one of the greatest romantic poets of English language. He is regarded as one of the greatest British poets and remains widely read and influential. Though he did not live long, he was born in 1788 and died in 1824, that is just 36 years. In his 37th years, he died while fighting for the Greeks against Ottoman rulers. But his life was not a smooth one. He came of a royal family, aristocrat family, and he had a temperament of revolt from his childhood. He had been famous for certain things which were negative also. He had numerous love affairs. Even there was a rumor that he had illicit relationship with his stepsister. He was famously described by Lady Caroline Lamb that Byron was mad, bad, and dangerous to know. He attracted the attention of the people of Europe by his works. In 1815, he got married, but after 1 year, he had to get separated from his wife. Then a storm of scandals broke out. Byron had love affairs with a number of women, one after the other. The very public which had loaded him with extreme praise now called him a monster of wickedness. From a hero, he became a zero. Keeping all these things in view, all those changed circumstances, he left England with an embittered heart and traveled the continent, that is Europe. And there he wrote the famous book, Childe Harold's Pilgrimage. Its first two cantos were published in 1612 and third canto in 1816 and fourth canto in 1818. He lost his life, or he sacrificed his life while fighting with the Greeks against the Ottoman Empire. Greeks still him honored as a national hero. The poem, which contains these 9 stanzas, which has been entitled "There is a Pleasure in the Pathless Woods," is actually an extract, that is part of the Byron's long poem Childe Harold's Pilgrimage. These are the 9 last stanza of the Canto 4, which were written in 1818. The book form it came in 1818, it was published. In these 9 stanzas, he has admired his nature and has expressed his love for nature with the different objects of nature. Now let us come to the explanation, stanza number 4th, and of this video, the first stanza. The poet says, the armaments which thunder strike the walls. Very good line. Armaments means weapons, but there are dangerous weapons invented by human beings, and when they are used, they destroy and terrify the enemy, just like the weapon of Lord Indra. Strike the walls of rock-built cities, means very fortified cities, so built very powerfully and strongly. They start trembling by the name of these weapons, which are invented by human beings. But this happens only on the earth. Bidding nations quake, even powerful nations, bidding commanding nations, they start shaking with fear by the use of these weapons, just as nowadays we think of atom bomb, etc. And monarchs, kings, rulers tremble in their capitals. Rulers start trembling with the mention of these weapons in their capital cities. The oak leviathan, very big size ships, whose huge ribs, that is a structure of the ships which is created by or made by human beings, make their clay creator, that is human being who will mix up into clay after one day, on one day. The vain title take of Lord of the, by creating such powerful, destructive ships, big ships, they think proud of declaring themselves that they are the rulers of the ocean. But the poet says they are vain. They are not used. They also call them arbiter of war. That you can say judge of war. Thereby they are powerful. They can do anything. They can do anything. But as far as ocean is concerned, man is powerless because these weapons, these warships, big and huge warships, are like toys. They are just toys for the human beings. They may be very powerful, but for the ocean, they are just toys. As the snowy flake, they melt into the east of waves. Just as snow melts on the earth in the heat, in the same way, these toys disappear in the waves, in the stormy waves of the ocean. They become powerless before the ocean, which mar alike the armada's pride. Marvel spoils alike, they behave, treat the armada. Armada was a very strong or mighty ship. It was defeated by light British vessels. Actually, it was a fleet of many 27 ships, which was sent by the Philip of Spain against the British, but they were defeated. Spoils of Trafalgar, the same thing happened, same kind of situation happened in 1802 and 1805. When Napoleon ships were defeated, they were looted, but the British, even after winning the battle, could not take the booty or the precious things which they had on the ships, as the ships were drowned. The idea is ships are very powerful, oceans are very powerful, Human beings are powerless before these, these oceans. Now the next stanza. The poet gives another aspect of our life. He says, thy shores are empires. Thy here means on ocean shores. It is on the bank of the ocean. There were built civilization, kingdoms, and great kingdoms were built because of the available of materials. These kingdoms were very powerful, but with the passage of time and due to circumstances, they came to an end. They were destroyed by their enemies. Now there is a change in the everything. Changed in all, save these, except. Everything had changed except the ocean. Ocean was at that time same, now it is also same. Though empires came and they got destroyed also. He gives the example of certain civilization or kingdoms. Assyria, Greece, Rome, Carthage, what are they? These are the four great kingdoms which were settled on near the shore of sea. Assyria, in an ancient empire of Asia, it became great under Tiglath-Pileser IV, 745 to 727 BC. But the Assyria Empire was destroyed by the Medes and Babylonians in 1612 BC. That is a great empire was came into existence, came and it got destroyed. There was change. Similarly, another empire, Greece. Greece, the Peloponnesians War, a conflict between Athens and Sparta, and finally destroyed Greece. Greece was a great empire, but due to the passage of time and circumstances, it also got destroyed. It became a ruin. Similarly, Roman Empire was also destroyed by Getae and Vandals in the 5th century. And then Carthage, an ancient cities on the northwest coast of Africa, founded by Phoenician settlers from Tyre. It became the greatest power in the Mediterranean till broken in the first and second Punic Wars by Rome, which destroyed it in 146 BC. The idea is great empires were created and were destroyed. There was a change on the bank of the ocean on the earth, but there was no change. The ocean was same in the past and in the present also. Thy waters vast them power. Vast them power and brought them power by means of commerce. They became rich as commerce was encouraged. There was full-fledged business on the bank of oceans, and these kingdoms were very rich, became very rich because of commerce activities. While they were free, and this happened as long as these kingdoms were enjoying national freedom. And after with the passage of time, and many a tyrant since, many tyrants, many despotic rulers, they came and destroyed their freedom. Their source obey the strangers. Many kinds of rulers came. Sometimes the stranger, unknown people came and ruled them. Slave came. Savage or barbarian, that is uncivilized people came. And these kingdoms were destroyed. Their decay has dried up realms into deserts. As they faced many problems due to the attacks and other reasons, they neglected their agriculture, so the land which was very fertile turned into deserts. Not so thou unchangeable, save to thy wild waves play. But this change does not take place in the ocean. Ocean remain same. It remained unchangeable since then. Time writes no wrinkle on thine azure brow, then your azure blue brow. On the surface of the ocean, time cannot leave its mark. The idea is there is no impact of time on the sea, though there was impact of time on the great kingdoms, but there is no impact of time on the ocean. Ocean remains unaffected with the passage of time. It remains same as it was in the past, the present, and it will remain in the future same. Such as creation's dawn beheld, means you were same as when the everything was created in the beginning. The morning, early morning here means in the beginning when it was seen. It remains of thou rollest down. At the present, it also move on the same. There is no change. There is no change in the ocean. Ocean was same as when it was created in the very early or in the very beginning. And in the present, there is no difference. The idea is time and other forces can cause distractions and other kind of impacts on great kingdoms, but time does not affect ocean remain unchanged. They remain same as they were in the very beginning. The poet again describes the might of the ocean, might power of ocean. He says, thou glorious mirror, glorious, golden, splendid, beautiful. You are, that is, ocean is the beautiful mirror where the Almighty's form, Almighty God's form, say, glasses reflects itself in tempest, where the God's form reflects in the form of tempest and other kinds of powerful activities of the ocean. These storm so that there is God in all time whether sea is calm or convulsed, whether there is a peaceful atmosphere, we can experience this convulsed, disturbed, agitated, whether the sea is stormy or disturbed or agitated, we can see. In breeze, when smooth breeze blow, or gale, where very fierce winds blow, or the storm, the icing pole, means surrounding the pole with frozen waters, when there becomes ice everywhere on the pole. And in the torrid very hot climate, that is whether there is breeze, whether there is storm, whether there is fierce wind, the sea may be calm or peaceful or disturbed, there may be ice, cold or hot climate. Dark heaving, you keep on living or behaving in the same way. You have been remaining same, but boundless, endless and sublime, that is limitless. There is no end of the sea and you are great. These features remain in all kinds of weather, whether it is heat, whether it is cold, whether it is calm, whether it is disturbed, whatever it may be. These feature properties of ocean always remain. The image of eternity, the poet calls it the image of eternity, for remaining forever. The thorn of the invisible, that you are in one sense the thorn on which God who is sits and which is invisible. Even from out thy slime, the poet again says that slime mud, that out of its mud the monsters of the deep are made, that various sea creatures are formed to get birth and they came into existence. Each zone obeys it. each part of the world obey ocean. Ocean's rule is everywhere. It doesn't mean that one part of the ocean is very powerful, other part is not powerful. It rules everywhere. Thou goest forth. We keep on going forward. Dread, fearful, fathomless, unimmeasurable, and alone. The sea is alone. It does not require the company. It is very powerful and everyone is afraid of it. These are the properties of or attributes of ocean, and ocean remain same in all weather and all kinds of, we can say, settlement areas or temperature. Thank you very much.